In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A three-run home run for Buffington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
And what can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports, episode 73. He's John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. Of course, we have a lot to talk about today. Here's a quick rundown. Fans in the stands and the impact of bad behavior like we saw over the weekend in Yankee Stadium. Angel Hernandez, not just the Kyle Schwarber thing. Twitter was blowing up all day on Sunday at the strike zone, and I have some specific things I want to say about the strike zone. Then we'll do the state of the Yankees and the Red Sox, and we'll talk about Miguel Cabrera's 3,000 hits. John, let's start with the fans and the players. You're a Yankee fan. Every stadium has had this problem in the past, so it's not like it's just Yankee fans. Yeah. Just for context, Saturday's game, walk-off by the Yankees. A guy ran into center field wall pretty hard.
Left field wall,
and the fans started saying stuff and throwing stuff, and it was pretty nasty.
Yeah, well, first of all, very exciting ending to that game. The Yankees played a great series over the weekend, and it's a great way to, celebrate. But seriously, you gotta. It's tough to watch when he hit. The first thing I said when he hit the wall, I was like, "Damn, that dude hit the wall hard!"
Hard.
You could see his
He
face
was
in the slow motion. He was kind of like his face was like he got knocked out almost.
Yeah.
So I was kind of skeptic that he was actually going to stay in the game. But apparently, the fans were dogging on him that he was hurt, and Miles Straw took exception to that and climbed up into the stands. They would say into the stands, but up the fence. But you don't see that. That's been a while since we've seen that, where if players actually went. It's happened in the Red Sox-Yankee series over the years at Fenway and at Yankee Stadium.
Right.
But as far as recently, we have not really seen that. And that alone is not a good look. As a player, you can't do that, regardless of what they're saying. I'm sure there was all sorts of stuff said by the fans to whatever, but something he said it triggered him, that they were dogging on him, that he was hurt and he was on the ground. I would have to say there's probably more to it than that. I don't think that exactly triggered it, but you can't go up into the stands. Now, that said, what transpired on the walk-off afterwards, talk about a perfect, when you say in the news business, the recipe for disaster.
Right.
Where does the ball go? Now, it's like you just got smacked on this with the left hook. Now the walk-off's going to the right, the bleacher creatures, right? Who have been sauced up all game, and they've been ready to go, and the ball's hit out there. And, of course, Oscar Mercado and Miles Straw are jawing in the left field. These guys are waiting, and next thing you know, 5 minutes later, whatever, here they are. Now they're ready to go, and they start throwing stuff, which is not what you want to see.
And then in the backdrop, honestly, of the stuff that the Boston Celtics fans said to Kyrie Irving, and then he responded, and there probably is a line. What considers crossing it is sort of subjective. But my problem with all of it, is basically this, is that the separation between fan and player has never been greater. And a lot of that has to do with they make so much money and there's so much risk involved. And for me, it's so difficult
to seem like otherworldly almost.
They're just, and it's like the field is like, there's this huge force field between the field and the fans, and that to me is, it's disappointing. It's sad, especially for little kids who want to have some interaction, and that this will only strengthen that barrier between fan and player.
The void will just get bigger.
And that's the problem I have. You can criticize behavior up and down, whatever, and I'm sure it was worse than just teasing him because he was hurt, and we don't have to get into that. But for me, the most frustrating thing about pro sports in a lot of ways is that now players are making $30 million, guy in left field's making $100,000. I get it, and they feel like they need to get some return on their investment for spending all that money for the game, and they put that energy in one place or the other. But for me, I love to be even in left field, you wait for it to quiet down and you yell at Manny Ramirez and he gives you a little clap back with his glove. That's enough to make somebody's day.
Right.
And now it's just, I don't know. It bums me out that people are stupid on both sides.
Yeah, well, you're watching that, and it's I've seen ton of Yankee game celebrations where it's a walk-off and people are throwing beers and stuff, but they're throwing them up in the air, right? That was just like, as John Sterling would say, hooligan stuff, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to say that too often, that word, but it's true though. Like you're watching that, and I was just actually looking at the monitor up here, and they were showing it over again, and you see, like, literally you could see in the background of the bleachers, like there's kids in Yankee jerseys, like, 10 to 15 years old or whatever, just jumping up and down, going crazy, like their team won.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing up in the front from different angles, like people just like rocketing bottles and stuff at players. And you just like that at that point, it just becomes like, look at me, I'm going to be a jerk. Like, or I'm going to try to hit somebody. Like, and you can't. I don't care what anybody says, like, oh, you're gonna take that lightly. Like, no, you can't take that lightly. I was just my son plays on a youth team, right? And they were doing like wiffle ball at the beginning of the game, right? Like where you hit wiffle balls in the outfield, and it's all coach oriented and everything. And one kid just kind of got goofy and threw a ball from the side as the kid was gonna hit the ball. He turned as he's hitting and hits him in the eye, and he's in the hospital, and his eye is all jacked up. Like, it cut his cornea, it ripped him up. So, like, what happens if you're a $30 million outfielder or whoever? Like, you just can't do that.
Right.
Like, you could end a player's career, and that's no joke. You could literally end someone's career.
So, for me, I go back to, and this, just bear with me for a minute, and I know we don't have a ton of time today, but I coach flag football, and it's kids. It's supposed to be fun, and whether it be coaches or parents, every week there's somebody who goes over the line. And we had a coach yesterday. It wasn't my game. It wasn't even the game my other son was playing. It was one field over, who argued a bunch of calls. And he actually got kicked out of the game, but he had to stay because they didn't have another coach. And then when they scored to go up and they ended up killing the team, he was like at the other sideline of the ref, he's like, touchdown. And he's like making all these motions.
Awful.
And the thing is, he's got these 14-year-old kids sitting
Watching
there watching him, thinking that's okay. And like, to me, like, modeling, you can say all this psychobabble bullcrap, but the bottom line is kids watch that stuff and then they think it's okay, or there's some sort of internalizing of some sort of judgment on it. So when you have all these fans and they're watching daddy throw a 16-ounce dagger at a right fielder, like, that's going to make an impression that daddy, their hero, thinks that that's okay.
Right. Yeah, and it's not, man. I can't. And like, listen, I would have to say, you can really only attribute it to alcohol. I don't think if you're a sober individual, like, you're making that decision. Like,
well, no good decisions.
I'm going to fire a bottle at the right fielder.
Listen, there's a reason why casinos serve free alcohol, right? I mean, like, it is the ultimate.
And now we go back to the debate why you got to pay $15 for a beer. I mean, I guess that's why. Maybe slow it down if you can. I don't know.
Just smoke weed.
I think you would have to. I mean, like, put a smoking section in there or something.
I don't know. You don't even need to smoke.
It's just like, go back to the youth sport thing. Like, I'm just as guilty of it. Like, I've been watching it and doing it and coaching it, and I've gotten on the umpires. I've seen it. I've seen players kicked out. I've seen parents rage. I've seen it all. Right. I want to get an umpire on here and we can interview him or whoever.
We should do that.
We should. But that said, it goes, and you'll see it now. High school sports, the players, they just in the youth sports, the older youth sports, the players mimic the players. Right. They get on the other team. They do the dances. They do
the bat
only
toss,
thing missing.
the smack
there's
talk.
No shopping cart to push in the dugout, right?
Right.
That's literally the only thing that's missing. They're on the pitcher as he's about to deliver, right before he ends, and sometimes that's even more distracting if you stop screaming right as he's about to deliver. It's crazy. But it's like, that is the way society is. But listen, you can't. There's no condoning that stuff at Yankee Stadium. It was terrible. It's a bad look. And your 2-star players have to come out and tell you to calm down. It's a bad look.
Yeah, totally. He's John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. This is Fan Base, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. You mentioned umpires, so we might as well just pivot directly to Angel Hernandez.
He was out there for that, Angel Hernandez.
Well, but you could say Kyle Schwarber's response at the end. I mean, is that bad modeling? I don't know. I tend to really like Kyle Schwarber, so I
love him now even more. It was great.
But here's the thing that I would say. There's 2 things I want to say, and you can react. One is, everyone's known Angel Hernandez is bad for years. So why not just expect it and swing the bat? Number one, okay. You know what you're getting, so it's
like a youth sports game.
Why are you taking a borderline strike? You should be swinging on that anyway. But I mean, listen, on the pitch thing, whatever, it looked like a ball, but it was still close.
It was close.
And I would argue that you know who you have, you got to swing. The second thing I would say is that it's not just Angel Hernandez. They're expanding the strike zone. I am 100% in favor of expanding the strike zone.
Yeah.
And I honestly want them. I want to get rid of the arm pads too, and I want inside strikes, whatever. The bottom line is that I'm pro. Angel Hernandez is a terrible umpire, but I'm pro expanding the strike zone. And I also think the hitters bear some responsibility. You know this guy stinks.
Be prepared.
So do we just you know what to do? And so like I was empathetic at one point, and I was not.
Yeah, well, so again, and everyone knows Angel Hernandez sucks. You know, Chipper Jones started dogging him years ago, and he still dogs him.
He must have some pictures of somebody or something.
He is like your typical guy that just won't leave. He's like that union employee that sits
He's the
around
guy with the stapler in Office Space.
That's it. Like he's never gonna leave, and now he's become a joke in himself almost.
It's like a caricature.
It's like a caricature. But listen, the first thing I thought of with Schwarber, I thought of like, was it the movie like Michael Douglas like years ago, Falling Down, when he just goes like nuts and he just like it just goes crazy. It was like the pot had finally boiled over.
Right.
But it was like the dude who stood up on the table and was like, just had to say what everyone wanted to say. He's like, you know, you're this far outside, and you're left this far.
The strike is up here.
Your strike is up here, and you're doing it for them, and they know it, and you're doing it for us.
You knew exactly what he was saying.
And it was just like the whole stadium was just like, I felt like they just it was like a theatrical performance.
Yeah,
it was like he got his money's worth, and in a way, you know, that is kind of what the game needs too, like the old Earl Weaver days, you know. And it's just like you just lose your mind so much. It's just like, I got to come out here and just say what everyone needs me to say.
It was, I mean, Schwarber, and again, his short stint in Boston. I mean,
it was great though.
And he's great. I just think
6.5. What was it? 6.47 inches that Segura got called out on off the plate on one of them.
That's insane. That's half a foot. That's a half.
The plate
is
17 inches. I mean, that's crazy outside. Like, I'm all for expanding the strike zone, but this is like going back, like way back in the day when Maddox would just start at like the black, and then he'd be 7 inches outside by the 8th inning.
Right.
And it was like, okay, if you haven't figured it out by the 8th inning, you should be swinging. But this is just, I mean, I'll give you 2 or 3 inches. But again, these players are so good hitters.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I say it all the time about Gallo. If we can transition to the Yankees and Red Sox state of the game, like Gallo's his own worst enemy because he has such a good eye. He can't hit anyways.
Right.
So the strike zone kills him even more.
Right. And no, it is a fascinating topic because, I mean, I would argue that the best eye I ever saw was David Ortiz. And when the umpire strictly called the strike zone, he got walks on stuff that in 2022 were going to definitely be strikes.
And with technology, it's only going to get worse and more scrutinized. Right. You know, it's like you can't watch a baseball game without 120% dogging on the umpire at some point. But Angel Hernandez, I guess, was like 85 percentile, and that, I mean, that's terrible, right? I guess I don't know what the overall average is, but I would guess it's above 95%.
The best tweet I saw was that we're going to find out that like he's a major investor in the robo-ump company. but what I would say is that I'd rather still have human error than robots as umps.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So you're going to get complaints. That's the nature of the game. He's John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. This is Fan Base, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Quickly tick through the state of the teams, and then we'll get to Miguel Cabrera. The Red Sox were in Tampa. There's nothing. What I would say about the Red Sox is that there's nothing exciting about the team right now. And it's also like, whether you're an anti-vaxxer or pro-vaxxer or whatever, this whole situation of Tanner Houck and Toronto, I think, and in general, it's like the disconnect between the Boston community and this team. Like, there's just not a lot of great energy around the Red Sox right now. And I'm not just saying it's because they have players who can't play in Toronto because they're not vaxxed, but like between that, their anemic offense, and just there's nothing to really get excited about with that team. And maybe it's just April. You know, April can be weird for a lot of teams. Whereas the Yankees, there's a couple of grains of things you can really be excited about, to be honest. I mean, Rizzo he's got 5 home runs. Garrett Cole finally pitched decent. I mean, they come out of this month with 4 or 5 games over 500. You have to be ecstatic.
Yeah, and the Yankees pitching has been great. I mean, you can look at Garrett Cole and say he's been a dud up until his last start, but overall the pitching is outstanding. I think they have the best ERA in the American League, third best overall in baseball. The bullpen has been lights out, so that's good. Obviously, right? You want to keep that going, and if barring injuries, guys have their little hiccups here and there, but barring injuries, you should roll along.
I mean, listen, you have Stanton batting 200.
Yeah,
right. You have Judge batting 260, and they're winning.
And their hitting is not good. They're winning games. Their hitting's middle of the pack. I believe, with runs scored in baseball. But it's their hitting is not good and they're winning games, which is encouraging, like you said. But you got to figure out Gallo. Like I said, I'd be shocked if he was on the team by Mother's Day. So we're closing in and like a little over less than a month.
That's your over under.
That was my over under. I feel like I want to go out on a limb and say, like, if he bats 200, I'd shave my head. Or if he finishes the season on the team, I'd shave my head. I don't know. I think either one's a safe bet. I would not. He sucks, dude.
You want to say that right now? That you shave
I'm gonna
your
win
head?
it. There's no way he's gonna bat 200, and I guarantee he's not on the team by the end of the year. He sucks. I'll shave my head if either happens. Why not? I mean, it's gonna grow back.
So if he's over 200 at the end of the season, you'll shave your head?
Or if he's even on the team, I'll give you double the bets. If he finishes the season on the team,
you shave your head,
or he bats to over 200.
Okay.
So one has to happen the other, no matter what. So if he finishes the team, I'm done. But he's still either or. But
what if he finishes on the team and hits over 200? Is there a second thing you got to do?
No. Neither is going to happen. We both know that. As much as I love the dog on Jackie Bradley, like, this guy is 100% worse. He's awful. I mean, he's literally a guaranteed out. So he got a double over the weekend.
Big whoop.
Right. I mean, Judge was stale until he doubled his run production over the weekend, too. But still, it's like he's Aaron Judge. You know he's going to hit the ball. Joey Gallo is legit, like, you think it's a guaranteed out when he's
Hey,
out.
Listen, Jackie Bradley is at a healthy 220 right now. Which
like
for
I said, the best.
For April, for him, that's good.
228. If he's lucky, he'll finish at that.
Real quick, let's segue it. Obviously, Miguel Cabrera passes 3,000 hits, and there's a lot of different ways you can slice the pie, right? How many 3,000 hits and 500 home run guys? How many 3,000 hits and 300 hitter guys? I mean, it's still pretty rarefied air, but this sort of caused the both of us to look at, 3,000 hits used to be, for the most part, a ticket to the Hall of Fame.
So like a week ago, I was looking before like all the scuttlebug, and I looked at the list and I said to my kids, I was like, holy cow, Robinson Cano has 2,600 hits. So, like, think about this. Robinson Cano, like, barring the 2020
if he hadn't
COVID,
been suspended,
he'd be going for 3,000 hits right now.
Seriously.
I mean, what an idiot.
It's really funny, although I'm sure that his performance-enhancing use has helped him on a bunch of those hits, so you can argue it's cyclical. But he's the active leader who hasn't hit 3,000, right? Because you have Pujols and Cabrera, and then Cano's number 3, right?
Cano's number 3. And the other thing that's crazy about this list, the top 3, with Pujols being the active leader with 3,308, Pujols has got 681 home runs, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, if you look at his numbers, if you can't tell me and argue for him being like the top 3 right-handed hitters ever in baseball, top 5 for sure, look at his numbers, dude.
And the thing is,
absolutely insane.
He's been so pedestrian like the last 5 years.
And you don't notice it.
You forget about it.
You don't notice it.
But, I mean, his prime years, and again, like, there's questions over his cleanliness, but never been implicated.
He's going to hit 700 home runs.
You think he'll get 700?
Yes. He hit 38 2 years ago.
I don't know. I think
Wait, no, that was last year. I think he hit 38.
I don't know.
2 years ago. Whatever.
But let's go back to 3,000 hits.
He'll get 700 with the Cardinals.
Joey Votto, who you think is as old as the sun, has 2,000.
Right.
Nelson Cruz doesn't even have 2,000, and he is old as the sun.
Let's ask the question. Do you see anybody, like, let's not say Wander Francos and all that. They're too new, right?
Yeah.
Do you see anybody doing it of the modern players that are playing right now? The Altuves, the Vottos, the Hosmers, the Freemans, the Uptons, dude, Elvis Andrus is on this list. You know, he ain't going to do it. He's 33.
Well, here's the funny thing. Before you alerted me to the statistics and Robinson Cano, I would have said, sure, these guys are in better shape. They're playing longer.
Right.
You guys can play into their 40s. But then I look at the list.
Right.
And then
it's not going to happen.
I will never say never, but, I mean, look at the top 20 and find somebody under the age of 30.
So this is talking the top 20. We're talking like 1,400 hits and up. So you got to play another 7 seasons, 8 seasons of hitting 200 hits. That's elite hitting. Elite hitting.
Everyone loves Trout, right? He's 30 years old with about 1,400 hits, and he's injury prone. And so if he went 10 years and averaged 150, we're talking 1,500 more hits that gets him there. Now,
Machado's a year younger, same little bit more hits, same thing.
Yeah, and so those guys, I think, would have a chance. Now, is there anyone above them? Goldschmidt, LeMahieu, Brantley, Hosmer,
I'm
Freddie
shocked
Freeman.
that Hosmer's on that list.
I know. But I mean, you go all the
Freeman,
way
I
out.
don't-
There's nobody on that list above those two guys,
Upton's
in my
basically
opinion.
done. Altuve, I mean, there's going to be questions about him anyways, but he's 32. He has got 17.
He could do it. He could do it.
He could probably do it. He has to hit his, Tatuve off.
But he makes it to 40.
McCutcheon won't do it. He's 35. He won't do it. Andrews is 33. He just won't have the team to play for, unfortunately.
Cruz won't do it. Votto
No.
won't do it. Yadier Molina's got
If Nelson Cruz does it, I'll shave my back, my hair, everything.
Stop with the shaving. But I would say that to go down that list, I would say that Altuve and then Machado and Trout out of the top 20.
That's it.
Have the best chances, and it's a really good point because.
And we're talking basically next 10 years. Next 10 years of baseball.
Yep.
If you fan that out, that's what we're talking about. I don't know.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, and I mean, listen, it's not like it won't happen again,
No,
but
it's
it's more likely to happen than 300 game winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind about that. That's gone. Did you know that
I
over the weekend, Tampa, they're like a winning record,
There's
and
like 6 pitchers and no hit.
well, no, they had their first starter to get a win
Yeah.
the whole season.
But that's Tampa baseball anyways. I mean, even when they had the good starters with Glasnow wasn't hurt, they were doing that.
Right.
All
right, man, that's good. I mean, this Angel Hernandez thing is just something to keep watching. I mean, I feel like the ESPN and those guys should start to actually sort of promote it, kind of like the
They
next
should do a
thing that
Saturday
he's
Night
doing.
Live skit on it. It'd be good. They could do a good Angel Hernandez.
It would be like Enrico Palazzo from Naked
He's so
Gun.
bad. He's so bad.
All right, listen, this is Fan Base, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. He's John Senecal and Brian Shackman. This is episode 73. We will see you next week.